They say time is an illusion, but is it? Times have changed and technology has improved our lives. Imagine a time when servants had an out-of-the-way staircase, so guests could not see them. Imagine having no running water. All you had for washing up was a wash basin and a water pitcher. Join us here at Days Gone By as we delve into old home features that have faded away as the world changed from the old into the new. In the early 20th century, mechanical refrigerators did not exist. An icebox, sometimes called a cold closet, was non-mechanical and a common kitchen appliance. Before mechanical fridges were invented, iceboxes were known as refrigerators, and people only started calling them iceboxes after the invention of fridges. Thomas More, an American cabinet maker and farmer, invented the icebox in 1802. He devised a brilliant marketing ploy and used the icebox to transport his butter to market. The icebox allowed him to sell firm butter, while his competitors sold soft and melted tubs. His first design was an oval tub with a tin container, ice in between, and rabbit fur insulation. Later versions of the icebox included hollow walls lined with zinc or tin and packed with insulating materials like straw, sawdust, cork, or seaweed. A compartment or tray near the top of the box held a large block of ice. The cold circulated downward and around the storage compartments, keeping the food in the storage compartments cool. The user had to replenish the ice by buying it from the iceman. The icebox allowed people to store perishable foods longer and avoid lengthy preservation processes like canning, drying, or smoking. The icebox faded away with the introduction of mechanical fridges. From the late 17th century to the early 20th century, most large homes featured servant quarters. These were areas where the staff lived and were usually located in the attics or basements of smaller homes. They could also be separate units built on an adjacent block or wing. The idea of an individual block for the servants was to keep them close enough to be at their master's beck and call, yet hidden away from sight. The servant quarters ran like a well-oiled machine. Everything from the laundry, kitchen, wine cellar, and carriage horses was confined to one floor, yet out of sight. Small, intricate staircases led to specific points in a complicated labyrinth of narrow passages to the main floors above. These passages allowed the servants to come and go as they pleased without being seen. Domestic service waned between 1940 and 1950 when wages skyrocketed. People eventually started doing their chores and servants were no longer needed. In most old houses today, the narrow staircase leading to the servant quarters are boarded off for safety. Transom windows get their name from their location. They are located above a window or door on the transom, which is the beam that separates the bottom of the window from the rest of the wall. Today, the windows are only for decoration. Transom windows were found on top of the doors and were popular before the advent of air conditioners and heating systems. The windows were opened and closed via special tools known as transom operators. They opened to the outside to let air in, while also keeping the room secure. Because they were high up, they let in light but did not compromise privacy, as no one could look in from that high. The windows were functional but added a unique look to the building's architecture. In the early 18th century, wealthy people with slaves or servants had an easier life, unlike the middle and lower classes. There was no indoor plumbing, and people used a wash basin and pitcher to wash up. Toward the end of the 18th century, pottery companies started manufacturing wash basins and pitcher sets. These sets were essential in every home, with a wash basin and stand usually made from wood such as walnut or mahogany. The washstand was a cabinet or small table built in such a way that it could hold a wash basin and pitcher. People would carry water by kettle or bucket to fill the pitchers in the morning or before bedtime. They would wash up and the water went into the basin. The dirty water was emptied in the morning, either into a slop jar or thrown outside the window. The wash basin and pitchers were popular until running water was introduced in most homes. Today, wash basins and pitchers are used as antique decorations in homes. Coal chutes were essential to most Victorian-era homes, especially before electricity became widespread. The coal chute was generally found on the house's foundation wall. It was mostly a metallic hinge door that opened to an angled tunnel. A coal truck would deliver coal each week and dump it through the chute into a specially designed room that held the coal, usually next to the furnace. To this day, these rooms in old Victorian homes are stained black. People called lumpers carried the coal in bags or wheelbarrows for homes without a chute. Wealthier homes used a device known as the Riley Stoker. This device was a covered conveyor machine that transported the coal directly from a hopper to the furnace without manual shoveling. Intercom systems have been popular in large American homes since the middle of the 20th century. They were convenient for families to communicate, especially between floors. The systems were mounted on walls and were handy for alerting family members about meal times or visitors. With the rise of technology such as mobile phones and smart home devices, intercom systems have become obsolete and rare, except as antique reminders of days gone by. Milk doors were small two-way doors used for milk delivery. They were insulated and built into most homes' walls, keeping milk cool to prevent spoilage. They also kept milk safe from thieves and animals, and were a convenient way of delivering milk without the homeowners opening the main door. This practice continued until fridges were invented, although it took quite a while before they became affordable. The milkman brought milk daily or weekly. With time, as people bought fridges, the milkman role became obsolete. Today, it's rare to see a milk door, except in ancient houses built before the mid-20th century. Dumbwaiters were common in American homes from the late 18th century to the mid-20th century. These small elevators were operated manually via ropes and pulleys, and items such as laundry, dishes, and meals were transported to and from floors in multi-storied houses. The dumbwaiters had compartments that were loaded with items, then lowered or raised to the respective floor. The name dumbwaiter came from the elevator's ability to act as a silent servant. People used the now offensive term dumb for someone who couldn't speak. In the late 18th century, Thomas Jefferson, who later became the U.S. president, brought different French and European innovations to the U.S., including the French dumbwaiter used at dinner parties. These dumbwaiters were portable tables, but Jefferson's model had a spring-loaded shelf between the dining room and kitchen. As president, Jefferson used dumbwaiters, which allowed him privacy. After the Revolutionary War and the espionage involved, he could not trust anyone and used dumbwaiters instead of servants, who were prone to eavesdropping and spreading rumors. However, the dumbwaiter became popular in the 19th century when George W. Cannon patented the first dumbwaiter. There are references to butlers' pantries in the 1700s, but they actually emerged from Old English estates in the 19th century. Initially, these pantries provided discrete spaces for the household servants to prepare meals without disturbing their employers. The pantry had basics like shelves, countertops, and storage, allowing butlers to manage the chaos during cooking and cleaning. As social norms changed, so did the meaning of this pantry. It became a symbol of wealth rather than efficiency, stopped being a discrete workplace, and became a fundamental part of the kitchen. During the 19th and 20th centuries, the butler's pantry or a scullery became integral to the home. This pantry was a passageway or room between the kitchen and dining room. It stored china, silverware, and bulky serving dishes like coffee urns, platters, and tureens. The servants also used it for counting items and cleaning the family silver. In some homes, the butler kept the cabinets locked and sometimes slept in the pantry to safeguard the silver. Today, butler pantries are still used in some homes, but only as a room for setting up meals and storing dining items. Though not very common today, some homes still have butler pantries. Wood paneling was the quintessential trademark of an American home from the mid-20th century to the late 20th century. It became popular in homes from the 1950s to the 1970s, representing sophistication and wealth. By the 1980s, it had started going out of fashion as tastes in decor shifted. The paneling covered walls and added texture, warmth, and a cozy ambiance. Dark wood paneling from mahogany or oak was more prevalent during this paneling era and provided an elegant look. Wood paneling fell out of favor as people's tastes moved towards lighter exteriors. Another reason it went out of fashion was the question of environmental sustainability and the easy availability of alternatives. Wood paneling is rare in modern homes as people opt for paint, wallpapers, or other options. Huge stone fireplaces were architectural marvels crafted from huge stones. Fireplaces were prominent in most American homes from the late 18th century to the early 20th century. Grand fireplaces were the central point in the family rooms, providing a cozy ambiance and warmth. Skilled masons carefully built them using local stones to create hearths that infused character and warmth into homes. Huge stone fireplaces were functional and brought families together during cold evenings for warmth and socializing. Architectural styles shifted and people started going for modern, chic, and minimalistic designs. As heating systems became more common, the need for stone fireplaces declined. Today, they are seen in older historic homes or as features in traditional and rustic homes. In the 18th and 19th centuries, anyone with a parlor room had a high social status. Families met their guests in parlor rooms to show off their best art and furniture. No wonder the parlor was known as the best room in the house because it contained the best decor. Imagine a room filled with ornate furniture, stunning heavy drapes in the current fashion, and elaborate wallpaper, all reflecting the home's social standing. The room was used for important events like births, deaths, and weddings, and was kept locked when not in use to keep it neat and ready for guests. Parlors had a sofa, comfortable chairs, and sometimes a musical instrument like a piano. Over time, things modernized and homes acquired TVs and other forms of entertainment. The parlor rooms became less common and turned into the current living rooms. If you've ever visited an old Victorian-era house, you may have seen a strip running horizontally on the wall near the ceiling. That strip is a functional molding known as a picture rail. Picture rails were an ingenious way of hanging photos in old homes. They consisted of molding strips along the top of walls near the ceiling. Picture rails were typically made of wood, and their designs ranged from simple to intricate. People used wires and hooks to hang pictures and photos from the rails. The rails came in handy because people avoided drilling holes in the plaster walls, which could damage them. Picture rails were functional, yet also enhanced the room's decor. They were mostly in homes built in the 19th and early 20th centuries and were closely tied to the Victorian era, circa 1837 to 1901. Rails were the norm in Victorian homes. They were often found in dining and parlor rooms, where people displayed decorative items. The use of rails continued into the Edwardian era, circa 1901 to 1910, with designs becoming more straightforward and minimalistic. In the early 20th century, homes built up to the 1920s and 1930s still featured picture rails, a standard feature in many craftsman, bungalow, and colonial revival-style homes. The rails allowed homeowners to hang artwork using chains, wire, or braided cord attached to the back on a hook latched onto the molding. After World War II, the use of picture rails declined sharply for several reasons. The introduction of drywall made it easier to hang things directly, rendering picture rails defunct. Mid-century designs leaned towards more minimalist lines without trim work, and the cost and labor of installing the rails became too high. With time, the idea of picture rails simply faded away. Root cellars were underground storages used to keep fruits, nuts, vegetables, and other fresh foods for extended periods. Some root cellars were unfinished rooms and basements, while others were dug a short distance from the house. Root cellars kept food from freezing in winter and cool in summer. You could even store beer, wine, and other homemade alcoholic drinks in the root cellar, which kept it consistently cool temperature. Did you know that the ingenious people of Australia might have been some of the first known to preserve food underground? It wasn't until the 17th century that the preservation method caught on in Europe. Today, Elliston, Newfoundland, Australia, is known as the root cellar capital of the world. A root cellar had an entry door, either flat or angled on the ground. For it to work best, it needed to be completely underground, often the steps leading down to the door or a covered entry with steps just inside. The deeper it was, the cooler and more effective it became. Root cellars were sometimes dug on hillsides, depending on soil stability. Today, fridges have rendered these preservation methods obsolete. Since a root cellar was built deep into the earth, it used natural temperatures and humidity to keep crops like yams, potatoes, garlic, onions, turnips, carrots, parsnips, and beets fresh. Other products that thrived in the root cellar included apples, cabbage, and pumpkins. There you have it, 14 things that have faded into oblivion. Times keep changing, and what seems functional today might be obsolete tomorrow. What we deem as classy or high-tech today will eventually be seen as charming and quaint in years to come. They say that the only constant in life is change. We have to embrace the new and accept that nothing stays the same. The mobile phones we were using when they were first invented have now been overtaken by smartphones. In 20 years, smartphones might be redundant. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, comment, and share. And don't forget to click on the notification bell to get a notification whenever we post another exciting video. See you in the next one.